Welcome to Propeller Breeze, the show for student pilots, sim fans, and everyone chasing that first solo and beyond. All information in this podcast is for entertainment and general knowledge only. Always verify with certified flight instructors or regulatory authorities before attempting anything mentioned here.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we're strapping you into the cockpit for what has to be one of the most stressful situations for a student pilot.
Oh, absolutely.
Imagine you're up there, maybe on your first solo cross country, and your instruments, your most trusted tools, suddenly start lying to you.
And not in an obvious way. They haven't just gone dark, which would almost be easier.
Right. No, they're giving you perfectly convincing but dangerously wrong information.
And that is the core nightmare of a blocked static system. I'm going deep on this one today.
Right.
What happens when your static ports are blocked, but the pitot tube is still working just fine?
Exactly. And our mission here isn't just to, list the failures. It's to give you the diagnostic fingerprints you need to see this pattern.
Because recognizing the pattern is half the battle for any PPL student. Understand these really non-intuitive errors in the airspeed indicator, the altimeter, and the VSI is critical.
So let's just quickly set the stage. The static system, it provides the ambient air pressure for all three of those instruments, right?
Correct. So a blockage means the entire system is now using whatever pressure was trapped inside the plumbing at the very moment it got blocked.
And that trapped pressure becomes the new and totally incorrect baseline.
Mm-hmm.
And here's the part that I think really throws new pilots. The airspeed indicator, the ASI, it keeps working.
It does. A lot of people think of pitot blockages, where the ASI basically becomes a weird altimeter. But when the static side fails, the ASI keeps ticking.
And introduces these incredibly complex errors that are all based on what you're doing with your altitude.
Exactly. The ASI is the complicated liar in this whole scenario.
Yeah.
The pitot tube is still correctly sensing the RAM air pressure.
The air hitting the front of the plane.
Right. But the static side, which is supposed to be the reference, is now frozen.
Okay.
It's comparing a live changing variable to a constant stale one.
Got it. So its accuracy or inaccuracy depends entirely on where you are flying relative to where that blockage actually happened.
That's it.
So let's unpack that. Scenario 1, you were flying above the altitude where the system got sealed up.
Okay, so at your current higher altitude, the real ambient pressure is low. Air is thinner up there.
Sure.
But the pressure trapped inside the instrument is from that lower altitude, so it's much higher. This high trapped pressure shrinks the differential the instrument can see between pitot and static.
And a smaller differential to the ASI means?
Low speed. The gauge thinks you're moving slowly.
So the result is the ASI is indicating an airspeed that's actually lower than what you're really doing.
Precisely. You can be flying fast and clean, but the instrument is telling you you're about to fall out of the sky.
Okay, now let's flip it. This is the one that really gets me. Scenario 2. You descend and fly below the altitude where the blockage happened.
Right. Now you're in denser air. The true ambient static pressure is relatively high.
Okay.
But the pressure trapped inside the system is from that higher altitude, so it's relatively low.
So now the difference between the pitot pressure and that trapped static pressure is huge.
Massive. And the ASI sees that huge differential and interprets it as a massive increase in speed.
So it's the complete opposite. The ASI now shows an airspeed that is way faster than your actual airspeed.
Yeah, you could be setting up for a landing, slowing down, and the gauge is screaming at you that you're overspeeding the aircraft.
It's fascinating because it's like the logic for a blocked pitot tube, but just reversed.
It is. Since the static side is constant, any change in altitude changes the pressure being felt on the pitot side relative to that fixed number. The ASI just translates that altitude change into a speed change.
So we can see this in action. Let's say the block happens at 5,000 feet. If I climb from 5 to 7,000 feet.
As you climb, that outside air pressure decreases. The static pressure inside is stuck high, so the overall pressure difference gets smaller.
And the ASI shows a continuous decrease in speed.
Even if your power setting and your actual airspeed haven't changed one bit.
And if I descend below 5,000 feet.
The ambient pressure increases, the trapped pressure is low, so the differential grows, and the ASI needle starts climbing, showing a continuous increase in speed.
So that pattern getting slower as you climb, faster as you descend, that's the absolute fingerprint, isn't it?
That is the diagnostic signature. You see that, and you should immediately suspect a static blockage, even before you notice anything else.
Let's talk about the danger here, though. For a student pilot, this is just lethal misinformation.
Yeah.
If I'm flying low and the ASI says I'm going way too fast, my instinct is to pull the power back.
Absolutely. And that is the worst possible thing you can do. The instrument tricks you into thinking you have tons of extra speed.
When you might actually be getting dangerously close to a stall because you're pulling power to correct a speed that isn't real.
And conversely, if you're high up and says you're slow, you might push the nose down or add power, accelerating towards your structural speed limits without even knowing it.
It forces you to just, for a moment, ignore that instrument entirely. You have to trust your engine instruments, your RPM, and just the feel of the controls.
Which is the perfect transition. The ASI is the complicated liar.
Hmm.
Let's talk about the instruments that rely only on that static line.
The altimeter and the VSI.
Thankfully, their failures are a bit simpler to get your head around, but no less terrifying.
So the altimeter is probably the easiest to predict. What happens there?
Straightforward. The altimeter's whole job is to measure static pressure. If that pressure is trapped and constant,
The altimeter just freezes.
it freezes solid. It will perpetually display the altitude where the blockage happened, no matter what you do.
So you're climbing, you can see the ground getting further away, but the needle is just stuck.
Rock steady. It's an unmistakable sign of failure.
And the vertical speed indicator, the VSI, it's measuring the rate of change.
So what happens when there's no change to measure?
It reads 0.
A continuous zero. The VSI works by sensing how fast static pressure is changing. With trapped, constant pressure, it can't detect any change at all. You could be in a steep dive, and that needle won't budge from 0.
But there's a little detail there, right? It's not always just a gentle drift to 0.
That's a key point, yeah. Right when the block occurs, you might see a quick, sharp jump, maybe even erratic, as the pressure stabilizes in the system.
And then it settles on 0.
Exactly. That initial jump and then the steady 0 is a key part of the pattern.
So, okay, let's put the whole picture together. The ASI is reading wrong based on your altitude fast when you're low, slow when you're high. The altimeter is frozen. The VSI reads 0.
That's the trifecta.
Which leads us right to the essential backup plan. The procedure every student has to know. The alternate static source.
This is your lifeline. Most aircraft have a little switch or a valve you can open to engage an alternate static source.
And this usually pulls air from inside the cabin itself, right?
Typically, yeah. It introduces cabin air pressure into the system to get your instruments working again.
But I mean, that sounds like you're trading one huge problem for like 3 smaller ones. Now you have working instruments, but you know they're all slightly wrong.
That's a perfect way to put it. You are trading an unreadable system for a predictably inaccurate one. And that's a trade you make every time.
Why is it inaccurate?
Because the air pressure inside the flight deck is inherently a little bit lower than the true static pressure outside. It's due to the aerodynamics of the airflow over the fuselage.
It creates a little low pressure zone inside.
Exactly. So if all your instruments are now getting a pressure reading that's a little too low, what do you think they're going to do?
They're going to read high. Lower pressure means higher altitude to the altimeter.
Yep. And for the ASI, using a lower static reference makes the pressure differential seem a bit bigger, so it will also read a little bit fast. The VSI will work, but it will also show slight errors.
So this is where the pilot has to go to the books.
You must.
Oh.
You immediately consult the pilot's operating handbook, the POH. There will be a correction card in there.
A little chart that tells you exactly how much to adjust for those errors.
It moves the problem from an emergency of, I have no idea what's happening, to a procedural issue. I know my instruments are off by this much, so I will fly these corrected numbers.
And corrected numbers are infinitely better than panic.
Infinitely. The key takeaway for the PPL student is that when you see that specific failure pattern, your immediate action is to switch on that alternate static source and then fly by the correction table.
It really is all about pattern recognition, moving past the shock of it and into the procedure.
That's what instrument flying is all about. Recognizing patterns of failure before they can cause a loss of control.
Which brings us to a final thought for you to mull over. The procedure is clear. Use the alternate source. Fly the corrected numbers. But it raises a deeper question, doesn't it? If you know your key instrument, your airspeed indicator, is now consistently lying to you by a known amount, how much does that force you to deepen your commitment to just trusting your gut?
Trusting your eyes, your power settings, the feel of the aircraft.
Exactly. Especially during a critical phase, like an approach, it really forces you to constantly cross-check everything and choose the reality outside the window over the number on the dial.
A great challenge for any pilot at any level of experience.
Fly safe, and we'll see you on the next deep dive.
That's it for this episode. Keep your wings level, your brain sharp, and catch you next time in the pattern. Thanks for riding with Propeller Breeze.